Hi, welcome back to The Forgetful Scholar, and this week we're going to chat about 2 books. That's right, 2. I did it. I'm very proud of myself this week. 2 books. One is, well, it was labeled YA romantasy, but I think it's more, I mean, my humble opinion, more YA gothic literature, I think. Maybe even more dark academia. And then the other one is historical paranormal romance, realistic magic romance, but definitely historical romance. I felt the need for some good old-fashioned historical romance. So the first one I'm going to talk about is A Study in Drowning by Ava Reid. This is the YA romantasy or gothic literature, dark academia. It was published 2023. And it's 376 pages. It has to do with Effie and Preston. Here's the cover. Very pretty, very pretty. Let me read you the synopsis. Effie Sayer has always believed in fairy tales. Even though crumbling under the pressure of her first term at college, she can't seem to tell the difference between fact and fiction. Taken by chance and maybe fate to her favorite author's estate, she stumbles upon Preston Hilroy, a scholar from the literary college determined to find evidence that the late author was a fraud, because Hyreth, perched on the very edge of a wrathful ocean, holds dark secrets, the likes of which both Effie and Preston thought only existed in the pages of books. The house and the truth might just ruin them both. So that book, A Study in Drowning, for me, 4.5. And as I said before, when it comes to YA books, I tend to go in it with a different mindset. Like, I read them differently than I would like an adult romance, right? But one of the things this book did fantastically, it did not dumb anything down. The prose were beautiful, and I want to read you 2 quotes I made note of, or I'll forget, because I'll totally forget. So the first one, it has to do, they're discussing a relationship between an 18-year-old girl and a 34-year-old man that was friends with this girl's father. So, well, I was a woman when it was convenient to blame me, and a girl when they wanted to use me. See, gorgeous, gorgeous. And part of the lore of this world, for the second quote, there was a huge, what they call the drowning, and it kind of destroyed the world. And now 2 countries, it seems like that's all that's left. I don't know if they expand it later, but those 2 countries fight each other, and people, especially in the south of the country they're in, fear the second drowning, right? I know you think I'm a little girl, and what could a little girl know about eternity? But I know this, whether you survive the ocean or you don't, whether you are lost or whether the waves deliver you back to shore. Every story is told in the language of water, in tongues of salt and foam, and the sea. It whispers the secret of how all things end. So I love it when YAs don't dumb it down. I love it when they're like, my readers that are reading this book are mid to late teens. They're not idiots. I'm not gonna treat them like idiots. And I like that. This, with The Tempest of Tea, same thing. Six of Crows, same thing. Did not dumb it down. And this did not dumb it down. Now, why do I think this is more gothic? Because the romance is very sweet. Like, don't get me wrong. The romance between Preston and Effie, very sweet. It's not enemies to lovers at all. Because I think it was trying to set that up, but I think that's why it's like a 4.5, because that wasn't even Effie, like the literary college and the college Effie is going to, the architectural college, they're kind of in the same town. They share a library. I think they're in the same building, right? And Preston went to the library first and took out borrowed books that later Effie wanted. So that's why she hates him. And I was like, I know how frustrating that is, but come on. And even Effie acknowledges it, that she's sort of projecting a lot of what's going on with her right now onto this. And Effie, it's hard to say if you like her or not, because we start off her recovering from something pretty horrible. But let me just get to the points where I think this is more gothic than romantasy, even though there's a fantasy element in it. One, a decrepit old isolated estate. Is it haunted, or is it just falling around, or is it just like decaying, right? Is it just breaking down? A recluse owner who could be mad, could be possessed, could be a horrible person, could be a good person, but like everything going around is just conspiring to make him seem horrible. Who knows? Was that a ghost? Did you just see a ghost? And like an eldritch fake king just in the peripheral of Effie's vision, like practically the whole time. So that's why I was like, oh, I feel like this skews more towards gothic, but I had a great time, okay? So going in, I was prepared for this to be sort of sad in the beginning, and I hoped for an HE, happily ever after. Why? I don't know. I think for some reason the cover reminds me so much of that painting Ophelia by Frank Millas, I think. I'm probably not pronouncing that. I think I forgot a middle name in there anyway. But for some reason, this cover reminded me of this painting. I don't know what it is. It's the composition isn't the same. Nothing is the same. I know the word drowning is in the title of the book, but I don't think it's it. It's something about the tone of the cover that made me think of it. So I kind of knew it. And yeah, in the beginning, you're in Effie's POV the whole time, and in the beginning she's dealing with some complicated stuff. The moment she said she's the only girl in the architectural school and the literary school don't allow women, I was like, oh no. I was expecting her to be like sexual harassment, something like that, you know, her getting panic attacks and things like that. So there is a little bit of a trigger warning. Her advisor did essay her. There's nothing graphic, and we come in after, like maybe a week or two after. So we come into her in recovery or maybe still in shock. And like, oh, I felt like immediately I sympathized with Effie. Immediately I wanted her to get better. Immediately I wanted her to get a happily ever after, right? But I'm not sure if I like her personality or not, because we come in at her recovering. I don't think we get a really good assessment of who she is. I think we get a fantastic front seat of her becoming, you know, because at the end, like, take everything out. This is a story about a young woman who has been taken advantage and abused her whole life, learning not only to stand up for herself, but to stand up for people she loves, right? And that in itself already like 4 stars for me, because it was beautifully done. I think this is going to be one of those days that I say 1,000 times and drive myself crazy when I'm editing this. So yay. Oh God. Effie, her whole life, has found escape and solace in this fairy tale from the certain author. And the fact that the author's name was Mildred Emrys just got me, because if you don't know, there are some very old folklores and things like that from the Celtic area of Ireland, Scotland, and England that a lot of people believe that Emrys Milden, I'm not pronouncing that last name right, correct, sorry, or Mildred Emrys, either way, was later turned into the name Merlin and in the stories of King Arthur. So I was like, I'm interested, what's happening? You know? Now, ever since she was a young child, she found escapism in a certain book to the point where it's become like a real comfort and milestone for her, you know, and she's really kind of obsessed. Like, I won't say it's healthy how she feels about the story, but she gets an opportunity to draw blueprints for this house. Now, she didn't want to go into architecture school. She wanted to go to the literary school, but the literary school doesn't allow women because they say women are too, their brains can't do stories. There's a lot of belief in magic in her country. It's just sort of the way it is. The North is more pragmatic about it. They consider the South peasants. The country they're always at war with. She doesn't really know anything. She knows just the propaganda, like they're savages, blah, blah, blah. And when she gets to the estate, Preston, who took out those books before her, is there. And she kind of like, for the first time, we kind of see Effie fiery. Like we get the sense that she is more than just escapism. Because even in her own mind, she just thinks of her as a great escape artist because she runs away. She never deals with anything. But I think the stuff, even we find out real quick that her mom's a piece of work, right? So like I don't blame her. And she's like 18, 19-year-old girl going through this, right? And she still has to deal with her advisor who, you know, and her advisor blames her for him almost losing his job, which freak you, dude. Go jump off a cliff. I want so much to rip that character to shreds, but you're supposed to, right? You hate. So the descriptions in this book are so visceral, right? And her whole life, she kind of had nightmares about the Fairy King. And even before she read the book about the Fairy King that her favorite author wrote, right? And this estate kind of has a dark, grim fairy tale kind of feel to it, right? Not Disney, like we're talking grim fairy tale, right? And it's obviously, like, the house is a symbol of depression and decay and things like that, obviously, but it's beautifully described, and you could almost, I felt like I could almost smell the mold, you know? Now, the author's son, Yanto, he wants to get the house fixed up, things like that, and there's a little issue with him because sometimes he seems like a completely different person, right? And his mother, like, his mother doesn't want to be disturbed, so she's sort of like the widow, sort of this unseen presence over everything. And Preston wants to find, Preston thinks that Emrys is a fake, and he wants to prove it. Effie, in the beginning, is strongly against that, but they decide to work together because some might not like this twist. I thought it made perfect sense to me. He offers to give her co-ownership of the paper and fight for her to be admitted to the literary college because it's stupid. He thinks it's stupid that women aren't allowed in, because it is. And in Effie's mind, she gets to go to the college that she wants to go to. Also, more importantly, she gets away from her abuser. She gets away from her advisor. So I don't blame her at all. It made perfect sense to me, even how obsessed she is with this story. It makes perfect sense to me while she's like, she agrees to help Preston discredit him, or at least find proof, right? And I think this was a smart thing because Effie's going into it from a different perspective as Preston. She loves the story, is a huge fan. So, and he comes into his thinking already that Emrys is a phony. So it's a good balance for a research paper like this, right? Preston, he's bitchy to her because she's bitchy to him first, which makes sense to me. But eventually, you know, they get to know each other. The romance is very slow burn, and I found it a very sweet romance, right? It was a very tender, sweet romance. And Preston is the exact opposite of all the men in Effie's life to this point. He's very emotionally aware. He's very sweet. He's very understanding. He's not a misogynist. You know what I mean? Like, the bar is in hell, right? I would have loved to have gotten Preston's point of view during all these things, because a lot of unexplained, I guess, realistic magic is happening, and I would have loved to got Preston's more pragmatic thoughts on it. The third act conflict, well, the conflict was really interesting, and the fact that Effie knows the fairy tales back and forward saved their lives, so I thought that was a fun, not a fun twist, but like a nice stable plot point that the author put in throughout the story already. So okay, awesome. The conclusion on if Emrys was a fraud or not, and who let's say he was a fraud who would have been the writer, I was like, yeah, obviously. Like, I figured that out, like, page 90. Come on. And to be fair, I read a lot of mysteries, so I was like, oh, it's gotta be this person. You know, if it is, it's gotta be this person, right? I will say that the pacing is that of a duet, and I realized that it is a duet because I have the second book. So, you know, and even if this wasn't a duet, I liked how it ended. I liked how it ended. I thought that was acceptable. Although I wanted worse things to happen to the advisor, I'll take it for now. I'm hoping something horrible happens to him in the second book. I hope I didn't give anything. I don't think I gave anything away. Like, at all. Did I even say complete sentences? Huh. That's a good point. I don't know if I did. The romance was very sweet. I love the gothic kind of literature spin to it. Dark academia, because they are dealing with academia as a whole. The ongoing circumstances and fallout from them is probably going to be in the second book. I loved being in Effie's head and her going from severely depressed, anxiety, thinking she's crazy, you medicating herself, being a doormat for everyone, not knowing how to stand up for herself, becoming this fiery, passionate person that would never walk away when a friend needed her, was beautiful. I loved it. And it didn't feel like she did that because she fell in love with Preston. It felt like being away from that environment and being with someone that just generally had faith in her and treated her like a person, like a nice person. Like, in the beginning, even when they were bitchy, he treated her like a gentleman. Like, he just wasn't a misogynist to her. Gave her like this kind of space to become who she was. And I liked that. Okay, now I'm gonna go on to the second book, which is a hysterical? Oh, I hate that word. What the heck? Historical romance, paranormal kind of thing. Come Back to Me, Viking and Saxon, book 3 by Josie Litton. It's published 2001 and 371 pages. This has to do with Dragon and Rika. So this is the book. All right, let me see the most feared Viking to come out of the Northlands in a generation or more, Dragon Harkonson, brother of Lord Wolf and friends to Lord Hawk. Yes, these are the names in the book. We'll get to that. Hopes to steal a few days away by himself before entering into an arranged marriage with a Saxon bride. But instead of tranquility, Dragon finds intrigue and passion when he has a chance encounter with a beguiling beauty disguised in boy's garb. It's clear that the fiery-haired, fiercely willed Rika is running away from something or someone. Dragon is determined to uncover Rika's reason for escape and see her safely to her destination. Yet rather than surrender herself to Dragon's care, Rika dares to defy him, disarm him, and even enchant him. For Rika has a secret gift that Dragon cannot see. Stalked by the tragic past, struggling to fulfill the promise of peace, only when it's too late does Dragon discover the truth that the temptress who stole his heart is none other than the woman destined to become his reluctant bride. So that does make it seem that he doesn't know Rika is his betrothed far longer than in the book. Now, this was 4 stars. It was a classical historical romance with a little bit of paranormal stuff mixed in. Now, this is the third book. I read the first 2 books. So the first book, Wolf, his older brother, it was very Rapunzel-esque, stole his bride that was hidden away in a tower, and she was hidden away in a tower by her brother Hawk for her own good because she was a very powerful empath and was driving her crazy. Wolf and Kimbra fall in love happily, yay, and they have a son named Lion. The names in this book. Anyway, the second book, Hawk has an arranged marriage to a Viking maiden named Krista to do peace, because this is under King Alfred when the Danes were encroaching on the Saxon land and everything. So for peace, you know, and Krista's she shows up with two unique servants. One, a very bird-like woman named Raven, and a very like gnome, D&D dwarf, troll looking man. I forget his name. Krista's power is a little bit more complicated. She has the power of summoning. And you don't really get that in her book. You get it in this book, is where they put a name to it. Like her mother, she's called to the sea, but she never goes because her love for Hawk is more, and her urge for peace is more. And she could like summon gnome dwarfs, and her servant that kind of looks like a bird is actually like a raven as a human. So she could kind of summon like flocks of ravens and dwarf gnomes. And they have a son named Falcon. These names. Now this is a story about Dragon, who is Wolf's younger brother. He is the third to agree to marry for peace. Rika, who is a truthsayer, so she always knows when someone's telling the truth, and it causes her a little bit of a headache when she lies. I think the pain should have been more, but that's too. She's running away. The thing is, I understand why she's running away. I do. Her father and older brothers are horrible men who have abused her horribly. Her twin brother was the only good one, and he escaped to Normandy to make his fortune, which is the northern France area. And then he was going to call his sister, and then he was going to take his sister with him. He just needed to, like, you know. I get why she kept running away. But at one point I was like, girl, you ran away 4 times and you keep getting caught. Obviously you're not good at it. Pick a different plan. And this was 4 stars. I don't think I mentioned it. Or maybe I did. I don't know. This is definitely a little bit more flowery writing than Lisa Kleypas or Johanna Lindsay. Just going in, it's a little bit more descriptive, a little bit more intense with the language. I have noticed the 3 books, there's a lot of like religious talk, pagan and Christian religious talk, and I'm like, okay, you know, for the times, sure, but enough of it, you know. So Rika keeps running away. Eventually it is an arranged marriage, and I do enjoy that trope. I do. And she expects Dragon to be abusive like her father is, like her older brothers are, like how she seen them take women without consent and nearly beat her to death multiple times. But he's not. He's a sweetheart. You know, he's a sweetheart warrior. An amazing warrior with a heart of gold. So most of this book is them being married and kind of coming to know each other and realizing his bride didn't want to marry him and was trying to escape, to the point where she might have put her own needs above peace, and he's really upset by that. She's a tragic childhood story as to why she's that, so the reader understands, and eventually Dragon does. There is a lot of court intrigue and sabotage, failed assassinations. Them getting together is really sweet because she's very sassy and fiery, and for once she's allowed to be that, because her whole life, like if she spoke a word, her father hit her, right? So I love kind of seeing her banter with him back and stop being afraid he's gonna hit her because of it. I really like that. I love that his people really embraced her, but there is sabotage going on. Someone does not want this piece, right? So that was interesting. And the magic is very realistic. You know, there's no crazy wand waving stuff. It's just that she feels a shadow when someone lies to her, and she feels brightness when someone's telling the truth. And it's kind of amazing. One of the reasons she trusts Dragon so quickly is because he never lied to her, you know? So that goes in a long way, especially if you're a truthsayer. So them getting to know each other in the confines of their marriage, I really enjoyed. It's pretty steamy. I really enjoyed. And the final act conflict, I also enjoyed as well, because it just kind of brought, because Kimbra, the woman from the first book, mentioned, like, it's interesting that these 3 men are so intent on peace in this time, and each one of them was gifted a bride with unique abilities. And she's kind of like, I think we're here for a reason. I think we're here to protect these idiots, so let's do it, you know? Like, and since Kimbra is younger sisters to Hawk, all 3 of them, you know, Kimbra's like, Kimber and Krista are like, no, you're our sister. And that like brings Rika to tears because, you know, her family, except for her twin brother, suck. I don't want to give this away because this is a fun story, like the court intrigue and the saboteurs. They start from book 1 all the way to this one. I enjoyed the reveal. Like I liked how they went about figuring out who was really behind all of it and how to like entrap them, because they are pretty high up lords and they can't just like, Alfred can't just imprison him without proof, because that lord also has a lot of backing, you know? So a lot of political stuff, but political stuff didn't take over. The romance is first and foremost, and like, who doesn't love a historical romance where like feared Viking, but sweet and tender, devoted husband? Like, who doesn't love that? I sure do. I love that. So I don't want to give too much away from that, even though it's a pretty old book, but the three books of that are a lot of fun. I will say I could have done without the religious talk. It's sort of like Julie Garwood books where they're fun, but there's weirdly an odd amount of like God talk when I just get to the boning. Come on, I don't care. Who cares? Yeah. I'm in that kind of mood today. Okay. So I had a great week. 4.5 stars, 4 stars. That was great. And historical romance is still my favorite, you know. So when I sink my teeth into a good one, I was just like smiling the whole time. So, and Dragon is one of, because I love like the irresistible, irrepressible scamp with the heart of gold, you know, rascal with the heart of gold. It's one of my favorite male kind of characteristics for like books like this. So that's what Dragon is. He's sort of like, he's a great warrior, but he would have been happy being a bard because he loves stories, you know. So that was a cute little thing. And I liked, because sometimes the new romance is coming out, it's like the guys are perfect, and that's not fun to me. I like when the guys aren't perfect, but they try to do better. And that's the 3 of them. That's kind of it. Like, I like that. I don't like perfect characters. You guys know I don't like perfect characters either way. Get that out of here. Get that out of here. We need growth. We need the person to the story to actually mean something, right? I don't know why I'm going on this tangent. I don't know why my energy got so high right now. I just want to like lay down, but here I are. I don't know. Okay, I'm gonna go back to the real world. Like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you later. Bye.